Hey everyone, we are back with Module 2 and we are starting the planning process, writing the rationale, which you guys will be doing in conjunction with learning about this content. So I hope everyone has had the chance to look over their topic assignment and start filling out that rationale template. You should have already answered questions regarding the stakeholders and the decision makers and that pre-planning portion of your rationale paper. If you have not, please go back to Module 1 and do so. And now we're going to be moving forward to actually writing our rationale. So program development typically occurs as a result of a few different things. It can result when the need is obvious. Let's say that immunization rates are less than half for children in an area, less than half for the national average. So way below average for how many children are actually being immunized. So there is an obvious need for a program, right, to be implemented to increase the rate of immunizations. There may be program development when a program has been successful in the past, but it just needs to be changed or reworked a bit, just tweaked. When planners are given autonomy to create a program for a community to improve health and quality of life. So maybe a community, let's say the community board or a district or something like that has said, we need this program, let's develop it. And it's kind of come from the top down. When the need is not obvious, though, however, decision makers will want evidence that a program is needed and how it will be successful. So there is a bottom-up versus a top-down approach. So just kind of note this in some programs, they come from the top down, meaning that the top organization or top leader has given approval and has wanted this program, and it's actually driven to the bottom and delivered to the masses, so to speak. And other times, most likely, it's coming from the bottom up, meaning that someone, an individual or maybe a group, has decided that there's a program need and they have to get approval from the higher ups. I actually worked on a top-down program. It was called the CEO Culture of Health. It's still going on through the Memphis Business Group on Health. And we did a CEO Culture of Health. So the CEO bought into this program to implement worksite wellness to improve the quality of life and the health of his or her employees. And so it was a top-down approach, and then they implemented the program. But it's really important to get the approval and the buy-in from those decision makers. If not, your program will not be successful. So here, remember, this is our generalized model for planning. Again, this is just a review from our last Module 1 lecture. So remember, program planning is a multi-step process. It's systematic. Pre-planning, remember we identified those the setting or the site, our decision makers, our stakeholders, and our gatekeepers. And the next step is developing a program rationale. This is to get the buy-in from those decision makers, to gain support of those key people, and to obtain the resources, which is often money, right? We need money and support. So, putting this on a priority list, support for this program. Let's talk about the steps of writing a rationale. So we started with our pre-planning part, right? We've already done this. The next step is going to be a title. We need a rationale title. So a rationale for the development of and your program name. We'll go over some program names here in just a minute and how to kind of think through what to name your program. But just know that your program will need a name. You're going to identify the health problem. This is going to be defining and describing what that health problem is. You're going to give prevalence rates. So at a global, more macro level, what is the problem? Is it obesity? How across the world does obesity look? At the state level, at the local level, the city level. The economic and social costs. So these health problems all have a cost related to them. Healthcare costs, any type of cost to the person, individual costs. If it's an employer, the cost to that business for their employees to be unhealthy. and then any kind of contributing behaviors. So you're identifying all the aspects of this health problem at a big macro level. Then you're identifying your priority population, which you've already been given your population, but you're going to identify them. What are the priority behaviors, other successful programs that have been implemented previously, and then picking a theory and focus constructs for that theory, which we'll get into later in the semester. We're going to state a proposed solution. This is what you're going to do, the actual interventions of the program. State what decision makers will gain from the program. What will be the outcomes of this program? State why the program will be successful and your references. So no, we're not going to do all of these steps this week, but we're going to get started on them and start working through some of these. All right, remember we already kind of went through these pre-planning questions, but just to review, remember we're thinking through our purpose of our program. What is our purpose? What are we trying to accomplish? Identifying those partners and those people we need to engage, and the leadership and the structure of the site or the organization that you're choosing, that community. Again, remember no schools. Remember for your site, there are no schools that are allowed. Remember your decision makers, your stakeholders, and your gatekeepers. Again, if you have not already done so, you need to go back and do this. All right, the process of writing your program rationale. The program rationale is really inside of it, or what it consists of. It's a needs assessment, a proposal, and a lit review. So for us, we're really doing a literature review and creating this program rationale. So we'll have the title of the rationale. We're going to identify appropriate background information, so looking at that problem and looking at our priority population. Writing the content of the rationale, which is the meat of the rationale. And then listing all of our references appropriately to create this rationale. So step 1, titling your rationale. You're going to insert your program name, and here you can get a little creative, but again, it needs to connect with what your program is actually going to do. So your program name, and then it's a program to prevent your problem in your population, okay? And that's how it'll be listed on your rationale title page. Immediately following the title should be a list of who contributed to the authorship of your rationale, and for you, it will just be you. And naming your program is so important. It can really help or hinder a program, especially in marketing and all of those things. So thinking about a good title is really important. So let's think about some. The name is the first image that is projected of your program. When you go to sell your program in this rationale, you want something that stands out, that's intriguing, that also kind of gives you an idea of what it's going to be about. It's what participants will remember, whether it's good or bad. It will either draw them in or it will send them to another program, right? If they hear the name of the program and they're like, I don't know what that is, or it sounds strange, they may not participate just based on the name of a program. The name should be unique, something individual, something creative. What happens if your name is too similar to the names of other programs? Could they get confused? Could they get mixed up? Sure. So let's look at some example titles here. I love this first one, No Butts About It, Smoking Program. So obviously that's playing into the butt of a cigarette, right? So No Butts About It, Smoking Program. Back to Sleep, putting babies on their backs at bedtime, right? This is buying into that babies need to be places on their back to go to bed. Walking in Memphis. That is a fun play off of the famous song, and it tells you what you're going to be doing. You're literally going to be walking in Memphis, right? Live Long, Be Strong. This is an exercise weight training program, right? Because you're building muscle, you're being strong. So live long, be strong, and let's move. So you know you're going to be moving, a physical activity program here. So how to name your program? Brainstorm. It's going to take a little time, guys. It's not going to just come to you like that. Think about how you want people to feel when they hear the name. Write down the words on some paper. Just get some key words that come out in your mind and write them down. Kind of categorize them into different meanings. Relate. Think about related words and phrases that evoke feelings you want. So hit the thesaurus and find synonyms and words and phrases that relate to what you're talking about. Experiment. Jot them down. Speak them out loud. Kind of hear what your friends and your family have to say about how that name or that title makes them feel. Reflect. Review your list and give some thought to each name. How does it make you feel when you hear it? Like I said, communicate it with someone you trust, friends and family. Test it out. Check trademarks. You want to make sure that you're not copying someone else's idea. Check domains. Search the internet. Oh, sorry guys. All right. So that was naming your program. Step 2 is identifying background information. Here we're going to be defining and describing the health problem. You are going to describe the status of the problem of the population. So what's the prevalence? What is it costing? What are the contributing factors and behaviors? Describe that population that you've been assigned, including any predisposing, enabling, and reinforcing factors. Provide evidence that the proposed program will likely make a difference. And describe similar programs that have had success. Don't give us programs that have not been successful, because that's not going to help your decision makers buy into this program. And then identify a theory that has been shown to change the behavior you're targeting and describe how it can be used in your program. And then once your rationale is all built together, you will propose the program, describe it in detail, align it with how the decision makers feel is important. It has to align with their mission, goals, and objectives for their community or their organization, and describe why it will be successful, why this is similar to other programs, and why it will work, right? So where are you going to find this information? Where are you going to find information about your priority population or your or past programs? You're going to look at scientific peer-reviewed journals. You're going to search for peer-reviewed sources directly related to your topic from these peer-reviewed journals, okay? You can use Google Scholar or you can use the university library. You can also use government sites, the CDC, government sites like that. You will need to use these, but they are not peer-reviewed articles, okay? So you'll need to use both peer-reviewed journals and government websites to complete this portion of your rationale. Let's talk quickly about what words need to be used to search. You need to pick out keywords, and the best way to do that is to identify the most important concepts of your topic. So let's look at an example. Let's look at the topic, do video games cause kids to act violently? So is the most important concept violence, video games, kids, or a combination of all three? Ask yourself, what are the most important concepts in this question? I would say probably violence and video games, right? And then adding kids on. It's probably a little combination of all of them, right? Because we're not looking at adults and video games and violence. We're looking at kids, violence, and video games. If the purpose of prison is to rehabilitate, what is the point of the death penalty? A good way to do this is to circle or highlight the most significant concepts. So in that example, this last one about prison, which words would you highlight? Think through that. And we're going to stop here. We're going to pick this back up in the next video, so stay tuned. We're going to continue talking about how to research your topic and keywords to use and how to complete writing your rationale.